Hello and welcome back to my channel, and you're now listening to Sunny's podcast. All thanks to two of my favorite collaborators, Jeremy and Yu, for completing this channel for me. For this very first episode of this brand new series, Past, Present, Future, I would like to talk about the evolution of art. According to Cambridge Dictionary, art could be defined as the making of objects, music, or images that are beautiful or that express our feelings. There's a lot to be found in the timeline of art history. It begins over 30,000 years ago and takes us through a series of movements, styles, and periods that reflect the time during which each piece of art was created. Art is an important glimpse into history because it is often one of the few things to survive. It can tell stories, relate to the moods and beliefs of an era. It allows us to relate to people who came before us. Let's explore art from ancient to contemporary and see how it influenced the future and delivers the past. Ancient art. Archaeologists had confirmed that the oldest art in the world is called spray-painted graffiti, not cave art. Cave art were known as the paintings that were made by human hands, but new research suggested that it was actually the outlines of human's hand. And surprisingly, it was not created in Spain or France, but in Indonesia. They were in appearance at least quite similar to the cave paintings that had already been discovered and made famous in Spain and France. Similar to cave paintings found in Spain and France, these ancient arts usually appeared with motions of sick animals, humans, and weapons. Many different styles of art were created over this long period. They included those of prehistory, Paleolithic, Neolithic, the Bronze Age, and more, to the ancient civilizations of Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the nomadic tribes. It also includes the work found in classical civilizations like the Greeks and Celts, as well as that of the early Chinese dynasties and the civilizations of the Americas. The artwork of this time is varied as the cultures that created it. What ties them together is their purpose. Quite often, art was created to tell stories in a time when oral tradition prevailed. It was also used to decorate utilitarian objects like bows, pitchers, and weapons. At times, it was also used to demonstrate the status of its owner, a concept that art has used forever since. He might not be as famous as Leonardo da Vinci, Pablo Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, or even Johannes Vermeer, but he is all unique. Introducing Jeremy Art, an authentic, visionary, and imaginative digital illustrator. Just tell him what you want, and you will get what you wanted with exclusive price. Start message Jeremy Art now, because your imagine, we create. Medieval and Renaissance. There were many famous artists and artworks were bred during the Renaissance age, such as Leonardo da Vinci with Mona Lisa, Michelangelo with the Recreation of Adam, and also Raphael with System Moderna. These three artists were known as the leading artists during the period. Some people still refer that to the millennium between 400 and 1400 AD as the Dark Ages. The art of this period can be considered relatively dark as well, as the millennium passed, more and more Christian and Catholic art appeared. The period centered around elaborate churches and artwork to adorn this architecture. It is also saw the rise of the illuminated manuscript and eventually the Gothic and Romanesque styles of art and architecture. Much of the notable arts created during the Renaissance was Italian. It began with the famous 15th century artists like Brunelleschi and Donatello, who led to the work of Botticelli and Alberti. When the High Renaissance took over the next century, we saw the work of Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael. In China, the Ming and Qing dynasty took place as well during this period, and Japan saw the Momoyama and Edo periods. This was also the time of the Aztec and Inca in the Americas, who had their own distinct art. Modern Age. Modern art runs from around 1880 to 1970, and they were an extremely busy 90 years. The Impressionists opened the floodgates on a new path to take, and individual artists such as Picasso and Duchamp were themselves responsible for creating multiple movements. The last 2 decades of the 80s were filling with movements like Colonialism, Japanism, Neo-Impressionism, Symbolism, Expressionism, and Fauvism. There were also a number of schools and groups like Glasgow Boys and the Heidelberg School, the band Noir, which called as Nubians, and the 10 American Painters. Art was no less diverse or confusing in 19th. Movements like Art Nouveau and Cubism kicked off the new century with Bauhaus, Dadaism, Purism, Realism, and Suprematism following close behind. Art Deco, Constructivism, and the Harlem Renaissance took over 1920s, while Abstract Expressionism emerged in 1940s. The 1970s is the most people consider as the beginning of contemporary art, and it continues to the present day. Most interestingly, either fewer movements are identifying themselves as such, or art history simply hasn't caught up yet with those that have. Still, there is growing list of ism in that art world. In 70s saw postmodernism and ugly realism, along with a surge in feminist art, neo-conceptualism, and neo-expressionism. The 80s were filled with neo-geo, multiculturalism, and the graffiti movement, as well as Brit art and neo-pop. By the time of the 90s hit, art movements become the less defined and somewhat unusual, almost as if people had run out of names. Net art, artifacturia, toyism, lowbrow, bitterism, and structuralism are some of the styles of the decades. And though it was still new, the 21st century has its own thinkism and funism to enjoy. So, to sum up, art is actually more than just a picture. It's a tool for expressing one of the deepest emotion and a confirmation of history and any narratives the artist is attempting to depict. Feel each texture and color as it has unique meaning. You will quickly discover that life is much more exciting than you could have imagined. Alright, so this is the end of the show for today, and stay tuned for more spectacular contents, and you can always check out our latest updates and videos in my official Instagram account and YouTube channel. Subscribe and share, and see you next time. Bye!